Hey guys, welcome back to Economics and Comics. We're really excited today because we're going to be taking a look back 27 years ago to Spawn, the movie by Todd McFarlane. I'm Bill with Economics. This is Joel and Mike Massey from GoneWithTheTwins.com. Go check out their site. They have plenty of movie reviews. And please sub. Please throw a like if you enjoy this type of stuff. You can check out our movie reviews as well. We thought since all the hype was Spawn, the new comics, he's getting close to 300 and it's a big deal for him, plus the remake of the movie. We thought we would take a look back at the old movie, and we did. And I know there's mixed feelings with us, but I loved it. I love everything about it. Why don't you guys kind of tell me what your thoughts are, and we'll kind of go from there.
For me, it's a pure product of the 90s, and it feels that way. From the opening credits with the heavy metal music and everything, it's a product of its time, and some of it has aged well, some of it hasn't, but overall, I still enjoy the film.
Not me. I'll be the bad guy here, but I did not like any of this. And unfortunately, so it is a product of the 90s. You do definitely get a lot of the tropes that 90s films use. One of the major ones is a lot of computer animation or primitive computer animation. And those elements have aged very, very poorly. The one element I did like, I will say, is John Leguizamo as the clown. I thought his performance was fun. It doesn't really make sense in the context of the film. Why is he...
Yeah, they don't really explain why.
Yeah, why is he wearing makeup? Why does he take the form of clown? And then later he becomes a violator. But his performance is amusing. It kind of reminded me of, I don't know, a little bit like of a Jack Nicholson Joker or Jim Carrey's The Mask. Kind of that fun, flamboyant.
I think he steals the show.
Irreverent.
There's no doubt he steals the show.
He's gross and funny, and
some of his lines,
some
of his lines are terrible, but he delivers them in such a way that you can kind of buy into it. But that was it for me. Well, look, None of the rest of it was redeeming in any way.
Mike, I think you got to look at it this way. This is how I tried to approach it in a different way yesterday when watching it, because I've seen it many times. 22 years ago, this movie, the 90s wasn't ready for this movie. Yes, there's a lot of 90s in it, but I don't think they were ready for this. If you really look at it deeply, like at the beginning, it starts off with him as a hitman type of killer, and he's shooting off this multi-rocket thing to blow up these terrorists and all this. And it's more tech than usual. They talk about nanotech in it. I mean, this is 22 years ago. They talk about a lot of things. They try to be groundbreaking, I think, with a lot of terminology and different ideas and weaponry and fun stuff like that. The fact that you're talking about the CG or whatever...
Yeah, the computer animation that they use in it. Yeah,
but the part of the cape is the only real thing I think.
The cape is pretty bad.
Yeah, I kind of like it though because it brings it back to that comic feel of just unreal. But I know most of the stuff is, besides the devil, is actual makeup props, animatronics.
I think his costume looks fantastic. The
too.
Practical effects of it, and what's interesting is that McFarlane now for this new one is kind of going around in press interviews and saying he doesn't want that Venom style of costume where it slowly envelops the person. But in this original one, that is kind of the style. But once they get past that the transformation, which has a lot of heavy CG, when it's the practical effects, I think it looks fantastic. And just the way the costume design.
I'll admit that the makeup is amusing when it's genuine makeup. But
that's a great part of the movie, though. That's what I'm saying.
I mean, there's a battle sequence in a banquet hall or whatever. And during it, he's shooting his guns and stuff, but he's got the mask on, and it's all practical effects, and it looks great.
That's what I love.
It's a man in a suit is what it is, but it still looks good.
That's kind of my worry about the new Spawn, is are they going to go full CG?
They might rely a lot more heavily on CG.
Well, the technology is advanced to the point where they could get away with that.
Yeah.
Will it still look good 20 years from now?
Well, that's a question. I mean, will Venom look good 20 years from now? It may or may not. So, I mean, that I hope they
Venom had its issues.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
I hope they stick to as much practical effects as possible. And we might see that simply because this original Spawn did use quite a bit of practical effects. And that's why John Leguizamo's clown looks fantastic in almost all of his scenes, because it's him in a suit.
Oh, yeah, it's a genuine fat suit.
And makeup. The makeup and everything. Yeah.
But, so for me, more problematic than any element of the visuals was simply the storytelling, and I realize that there are faults with it. We watched the director's cut on Blu-ray, which had a little bit of the extra violence. It was originally PG-13 when it came out theatrically, and then this has maybe 10 seconds worth of additional violence and blood and whatnot. So I think it gets the R rating on home video, but. The storytelling to me is all over the place, and they did edit some stuff, but one of the most glaring problems I saw here was the whole story makes almost no sense. And if you're a fan of the comic books, you'll know more about what's going on. But if you don't know anything about the comic books, it's very hard to follow. The story just goes all over the place. I think Jessica Priest was one of the things that seems very blatant, that they had more intended for her. Mm-hmm. Here she dies off.
I kind of thought she was going to come back.
Movie. Yeah, and I think originally they were going to have her come back as like a robo person or something.
She wasn't even the person in the comics. It's Chapel. So,
but that was a rights issue that they couldn't put Chapel in there.
I think it's interesting now that you say that, because when I watch a movie, and I watch movies that are even older than this, when they at the beginning they start off telling you about Spawn and Hell and the armies and the guy's voice in the background telling the story. I love that. To me, that's storytelling. So it's like, we're off. Like, you and I are on the opposite page here. Like, they don't tell you everything, but you get the idea if you're new to it. They bring you in immediately and tell you the idea of everything, what Spawn is, what's happening, the war, and everything. And I don't know. I get like a feel of like Clash of the Titans, the old Clash of the Titans,
sure,
mixed with you know, I don't know, some sort of I don't know. It's the type of movie that I love. I feel like going back to those type of movies, even though, yeah, it's not the greatest movie in the world. I loved watching it. I loved watching it again. Everything about it.
I compare it a little bit to something like The Crow.
That's what I was going to say.
And that's because The Crow was probably was definitely ahead of its time for when that came out. You know, nobody'd seen quite that kind of gothic action movie. And Spawn is a little bit in that same vein, where I feel like, maybe not to the extent of The Crow, but to a similar degree, where the ideas and the concepts they're trying to put in there are quite ahead of the times for when that came out. And yeah, I mean, while maybe Crow is more successful overall in its overall vision, I still found a lot of redeeming qualities about that original Spawn movie.
Yeah, I mean,
other than Martin Sheen, I thought Martin Sheen just kind of hammed it up through the whole
Since
film.
you mentioned Martin Sheen,
that's another thing.
Since you mentioned Martin Sheen, I'll tell you, for me, one of the most disappointing characters in the whole film, the most extraneous character, is Cagliostro. This guy who just shows up. He plays Obi-Wan Kenobi for, he doesn't seem like he fits in this world.
He looks like him.
Obviously, he's designed to be like this ancient crusader type character, but not only does his face not look like he's seen any action whatsoever. I mean, he looks like a pudgy, I don't know, just not an action hero, right? And every scene he's in, he brings it down. It whatever intensity there is, whatever seriousness there is, he shows up, and you're like, who is this old guy who has no business?
Well, I'll admit both Cagliostro and Martin Sheen's characters were subpar, but I think the main battle is between Spawn and the clown, and that, I don't know, both of those characters I found very amusing.
Yeah, I don't think they were going to make Cagliostro, or however you want to say it, some guy that's going to steal the scene. They're going to make him look the way he looks, an old.
He was almost unnecessary.
Yeah,
I thought he didn't really
just
add
a little
anything,
extra.
Yeah.
But Martin Sheen, I gotta admit, I love Martin Sheen in this movie. They even make references to Apocalypse Now in it, and it's so funny when they do. The clown says Apocalypse Now and looks right at him, and he's the main guy.
Well, the problem with Sheen in this is I liken him to John Voight in Anaconda. Here he is desperate to be in an act. I think he got the part, or he, because he wanted to be in a superhero movie. That was one of his dreams, was to be. So here he is, hamming it up, just kind of. He's embracing it, but at the same time, he's not taking it seriously. And I think a lot of the other action in the film is meant to be taken seriously. So Martin Sheen's character is a little bit out of the.
Hang on, let me tell you something. How good of an actor Martin Sheen is. Okay.
Oh no, I'm not saying Martin. Sheen.
No, he killed it. And I'm going to tell you the scene. There's a part where, and it's not really spoiling anything, but there's a part where he gets this thing attached to his heart. So if he dies, it'll spread the virus everywhere and kill everybody. He's at the operating table, and they're like, "You're gonna feel a little snap when we put it in, or whatever." And when he's on the table, he's awake while they're doing the surgery. And
why? Who gets open heart surgery awake?
But man, I'm telling you, the acting's good right there. He does his face, his closed eyes face, like he's really sick, like in the Wall Street movie where he's not feeling good and he's in the bed at the end, and I love you, Dad, I love you, son, with the tiger blood, Charlie Sheen, and it's just, I'm telling you, beautiful. He should have got an Emmy, but like I said before, this movie was at the wrong time. Let's just say now they are going to do this movie again, way better, in about a year or whatever, whenever it comes out, I don't know. But if you put that movie 10 years ago with Iron Man and all these other, that would have been the beginning of the right time. Right now, you can do anything. People are trying. They're trying all Hellboy. All different types of movies they're trying to bring back, and a lot of them are failing. Just people get mad at me with the DC movies. I do like some of them, but most of them are horrible. This is the time. Back in the 90s, they were so popular. Liefeld and Jim Lee and Will Spatasio and all the main Image guys were so popular. They were doing TV commercials. They were doing all types of things. And his Levi's commercials and stupid stuff. But Todd was the man. And he said, you know what? Let's do this. And it was the wrong time. But I consider this movie definite classic. I love it.
It's possible also some of the shortcomings have to do with the director, I believe, was first time. I'm not sure, but
I know there were some issues at the beginning of production about control. Todd McFarlane wanted the creative control to be able to build these characters the way he wanted to, and studio executives who didn't quite understand this, as with a lot of different kinds of films that get muddled in the production phase. There was some contention there.
Yeah.
So
well, with this new film, I believe he wants to make it more of a horror film.
Yeah,
he'll make it darker.
Yeah. I think he's leaning more toward horror than this outlandish superhero type thing.
Which would be really cool, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, so where they failed with Hellboy is they took a character who originally, at least in the films, had some life to him, and they made him dark and dour and just no personality and a lot of violence. So here, Todd McFarlane has an opportunity in the coming months or next year, whenever this new Spawn comes out, to learn from Hellboy's mistakes. Here he has an opportunity to go the darker, more violent route, but
you have to
not
retain some
destroy.
humanity.
Yeah,
I don't think it's going to be
the Al Simmons character has to be somebody that we can relate to.
I don't think it's going to be anything similar at all to Hellboy. I mean, yeah, they're both dark and all that, but I think Todd's got a vision. He's had 22 years to think about it.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of money, I'm sure. He's going to have some great backing. I think some of the original people that filmed, directed, whatever, are going to be doing it again. Maybe the special effects guys. I'm not sure. But I know he's going to give it justice, and he's doing it at the right time. I predict the new one's going to be huge.
I hope so.
Huge. Not like this. I'm trying to think of movies that were around the same time. Was it like the Batman Returns or something? Or like with the Penguin and Catwoman? Is that about the same time, or is that even earlier than the original Spawn?
89?
Was it that late?
Well, maybe, I'm trying to think of like a movie that can compare at that time. Like I said, it was the right time. Comics were kind of going crazy. Actually, it was probably the wrong time. Comics were failing after the craziness. But I loved watching it again.
So final thoughts, Bill?
Love it. I love it. Yeah, it's silly, some of it. But I really, you get the comic book feel. I got what he was going for. And I enjoy the visuals. And like you said, the clown, 100%, man. He's so good.
I'm excited to see what they do with those kind of characters in the new film.
Well, to this, not to this film's credit, but to Todd McFarlane's credit, this is the kind of film that has the opportunity to be remade in so much of a better way, right? Where, technologically we're advanced, the audiences are prepared for it. So I think, despite Spawn's shortcomings in 97, here we are 22 years later, it is probably the right time to revisit Spawn, this character, this universe, and see what he can do with it.
I just hope that he doesn't do the whole CG. There's two ways of CG, and we've been realizing a lot. There's an incredible one, and then there's the worst ever. And I've been seeing a lot of the worst CG ever in our time now, which makes no sense when you consider Avatar being how old?
McFarlane said he does not want to do the Venom route of the costume. He wants to do it in a way that you've never seen before. Now, it remains to be seen what that's going to be, but hopefully, I'm hoping that it'll be something creative.
I know he's smart and talented enough to not mess it up. I really, fingers crossed, brother. I'm wishing you the best, Mr. McFarlane. If you watch this, I'm probably not going to.
Well, and he's from Arizona, right?
Yeah.
So there's an
well,
extra
maybe I'll
reason.
bring it over, call him and say, hey, we did a video for you. Have you guys did you guys do a movie review for this already on your site?
There will be one published shortly.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then check them out at GoneWithTheTwins.com and check out anything else they might have.
What's your score, Bill? Final score.
People are gonna hate
10
me.
out of 10.
No,
Hey, I'll tell you one very interesting bit of trivia. So when this movie came out in '97, it was critically, hated. Most critics didn't like it. But Roger Ebert gave it 3.5 out of 4 stars. He was the highest score, perhaps, of any
Wow.
of esteemed critics, and he was not eye to eye with anybody else. Siskel, his partner at the time, loathed this film. But it's interesting that Roger Ebert saw something in it that almost nobody else saw, critically
Are
speaking.
you calling me Roger Ebert?
No, I'm not.
I guess I would give it an 8.5 if you can give halves. There's a couple little silly parts, but man, it brings me back.
It's nostalgic
Yeah,
film.
maybe more nostalgia than there is.
But no, I
logic.
enjoyed everything they did with it. Everything. So get their numbers on their site. Please sub
It'll
up.
be
Please
lower.
check them out. And when the new movie comes out, we'll be here for you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed this look back at Spawn. Have a good one.